in this world and in the hereafter. This will motivate people to willingly adhere to its laws and observe them, even if there was no rewards for them in this world, because there are rewards for them in the hereafter. This will also motivate people to willingly avoid inflicting harm on other people, even if there was no punishment in this world, because there is punishment in the hereafter. When practiced correctly, such belief and motives are capable of ensuring people's welfare and happiness. The last two characteristics we will address today are the flexibility and resilience of Sharia rules, followed by the combination of Islamic Sharia between idealism and realism. All this right after this short break, so stay with us. Remember to email us on understandingislam@dmi.ae with the topics you would like to see covered. Welcome back. Brothers and sisters, the last two characteristics we will address today are the flexibility and resilience of Sharia rules, followed by the perfect combination in Islamic Sharia between idealism and realism. The Islamic Sharia is very resilient and flexible to accommodate different environments and circumstances. There are two types of rules in Islam: basic rules that can easily be applied and implemented regardless of people, time, place, and environment. Those are the fixed rules, and even those rules can be relaxed in rare situations, as we will see later on. The second type of rules are general guidelines that can accommodate new situations and scenarios without any difficulty. Most Islamic rules and regulations fall under this category. By not being specific to time and place, these general rules can accommodate wider areas and upcoming situations. One more point that made the Islamic Sharia very resilient and flexible is the wide area of permissibility. Basically, most things and acts are permissible in Islam, except for very few things. In our days, we see practical examples of this resilience and flexibility in Islam. We find Islamic banks, Islamic finance, Islamic insurance, etc. These names, by the way, are figurative only. The actual names should be something like Sharia compliant banks or Islamic compliant finance, etc. But they call it Islamic for short. The financial institutions and their popularity internationally are a perfect example of how Sharia law can be shifted and reinterpreted, but still apply to us today. Finally, the Islamic Sharia is characterized by an inspired combination between idealism and realism. The idealism in Islam is that it aspires to guide each person to reach his utmost potential and highest possible state of perfection in all aspects of religion and life. Yet, Islam does not overlook human nature and real-life factors, and this is the realism of Islam. The idealism of Islam is shown through the person of the Messenger ﷺ, his life and actions, as they are the ultimate example of human perfection. And that is why Allah the Almighty made him the beautiful example of good conduct for us to follow. As Allah the Almighty said, "You have indeed in the Messenger of Allah a beautiful pattern of conduct for anyone whose hope is in Allah and the final day, and who engages much in the remembrance of Allah." Surah Al-Ahzab 33, verse 21. This idealism in Islam is not a fantasy or an impossible dream. It is not even a very hard thing to do, but a real beautiful and practical way of conduct that can be achieved with perseverance and patience. Why do we say it's beautiful and practical? Because this idealism is based on two beautiful basics: moderation and comprehensiveness. Moderation means giving each thing its proper right and avoiding exceeding the proper bounds in either direction, not going too far nor stopping too short. Moderation is one of the most important points in all Islamic rules and regulations. There are many proofs for this. Allah the Almighty says, "You shall neither tie your hand to your neck, be miserly, nor stretch them forth to their utmost reach, be prodigal, lest you sit back blameworthy and destitute." Surah Al-Isra 17, verse 29. Allah the Almighty also described the believers by saying, those who, when they spend, are not extravagant and not miserly, but hold a just balance between those two extremes. Surah Al-Furqan 25, verse 67. The Messenger ﷺ also said, the best in all matters is the middle. This moderation is required in all matters, even in worship and religion. Islam does not like Muslims to avoid living their normal lives and enjoying permissible pleasures and delights, as the Messenger ﷺ warned against such thing. We will come back to this important topic in the future, inshallah, with much more details and discussions. The second beautiful basis to idealism in Islam is comprehensiveness, because Islam wants each person to reach his utmost potential, but in a symmetrical way and in all areas of life. He should not concentrate all his energies on one or more aspects of life till he reaches the highest level in them, while neglecting other aspects of life and not reaching the minimum requirements. This is not considered perfection in Islam, but a flaw on the part of such person. He is just like a student who concentrates on one subject and gets high marks in them, but flunks in other subjects. Now, for the realism in Islam, while Islam seeks idealism, it does not overlook human nature and individual differences. Each person has a different willingness or desire to seek a certain level of perfection or idealism, and Islam takes this into consideration. That is why Islam sets a minimum level of perfection that is required from every person. This minimum level is required to shape the Islamic personality into an acceptable form. It is the minimum requirement that entitles a person to be considered a true Muslim. This basic level of perfection is so easy that any person can reach it with very minimum efforts. These are the basic obligatory requirements to do in Islam and the basic prohibited things to avoid in Islam. Beside this basic level, there is another higher level that is open to anyone seeking to reach a higher level of perfection in all aspects of life. This higher level is recommended, but it's optional. It was not made obligatory to keep with the realism of Islam, because if it was obligatory, it will cause hardship to many people. And hardship is not part of the religion. As Allah the Almighty said, and He hath not laid upon you a religion any hardship. Surah Al-Hajj 22, verse 78. We find these minimum and higher levels in all Islamic aspects. The Islamic realism does not stop at stating two different levels, but goes further as to facilitate exceptions to be made for every Muslim when there is hardship or difficulties. When there are hardships or difficulties, the obligations will be relaxed or relieved altogether, and the impermissible things become permissible. That is a full and perfect realism. Dear viewers, with this blend between idealism and realism in Islam, a Muslim can utilize his potential and achieve perfection with ease, moderation, and comprehension, in perfect harmony with the human nature, without too many difficulties or hardships, and without isolation from people or forsaking life pleasures. I hope that today's episode was able to explain this important topic to you all and clarify it to you. Now we have time for one quick question from one of our viewers, and Faraz is asking, can you please explain just what kinds of music are permissible in Islam? Dear brother, there are some forms of music that is permissible, such as tambourines in happy occasions, in weddings, when someone returns from travel, and during festivals, etc. There is a dispute among scholars regarding other types of musics. The majority of scholars state that listening to music is forbidden, while some say that it is permissible if it does not contain any forbidden ingredient, as long as it does not distract us from our Islamic duties, such as prayer, the rights of families, and others, etc. All scholars, however, they agree that if the songs contain anything forbidden in Islam, then it becomes forbidden without a dispute, and one should refrain from it. So, if it includes forbidden matters or things that are contrary to Islamic beliefs and Islamic rules and regulation, then it becomes haram or impermissible. such as unveiled women, lustful music, songs, words, or acts. Similarly, impermissibles are songs that are full of or propagate illegal ideas and thoughts, attack religions, virtue and morals, or encourage vices and what is prohibited, like extramarital affairs, impermissible relationships, immoral phrases and gestures, nudity, obscene language or scenes, or anything forbidden in Islam. Dear viewer, you should not be a receiver without a choice or without a decision. You should decide what you want to listen to and how much and why, as we will be questioned about the time we spent. What did we use it in? The Prophet ﷺ said, the person will be asked about his life and how he spent it. A Muslim should occupy himself with what is beneficial, educational, and informative, and utilize his time in things that benefit him and others in this world and in the hereafter. Dear viewers, thank you for watching and see you next week, inshallah, God willing. As always, if you want your questions answered, email us at understandingislam@dmi.a. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you and the mercy of Allah and His grace.